One of the most common questions that we get on this channel is in regards to IT interview questions. And more specifically, what types of questions can we expect in an IT interview? Whether that's for a help desk position, a systems administrator position, networking, penetration testing, data, programming, it does not matter. Always we're getting questions about these types of jobs and the types of technical questions that you may receive during an interview. Now, before we jump into this video, we have to be honest with you. There is no way that anybody in the entire world could tell you exactly what types of questions you are going to get in an interview unless you speak to somebody who's gone through that interview themselves or has some inside knowledge. You'll simply never know. However, we can be certain that we will find many types of questions that can be answered by utilizing the STAR method. And we are going to talk about the STAR method in this video, but we're also going to tell you how you can prepare for some of these questions that you could potentially get. Even though we have no idea what they could be, we do have resources and tools available to help us pinpoint or at least get closer to those types of questions that we could receive, so we can at least come to that interview as prepared as possible. So if you're not familiar with this YouTube channel, my name is Zach Hill. This is IT Career Questions, and we're here to help you. The whole purpose of this channel is to give you the tools, the resources, and the information that you need to be successful working in the information technology career field. So welcome to the channel, and let's dive into this video. And we're going to cover something right away that you've probably heard a lot about lately, but it's a tool and a resource that I utilize and many other IT professionals are utilizing on a day-to-day basis. Have you ever heard of Chat GPT? It's like having a tech guru in your pocket. And I'm going to show you how it can turn you into an interview wizard for your next IT job. Now, Chat GPT at a fundamental level, it's a great tool. You don't have to have too much knowledge to utilize it, and a lot of the information that you can gather, again, at a fundamental level is pretty accurate. Now, when you start getting into more advanced tools, techniques, processes, technologies even, ChatGPT will often not be as accurate as it should be. And that's where you as an IT professional come in, because you have to have some type of knowledge in what that information ChatGPT is feeding you. Now, again, that's down the road. Right now, ChatGPT is such an amazing tool just to help you get started and learn things. So now that we've talked about this long enough, let's really jump into the meat of this video. So if you finally made it to the interview process, congratulations. If you haven't made it to the interview process yet, after you've filled out tons of applications, 99% of the time, it's because your resume needs a lot of work. And I have a video right here that you guys can go to so you can spruce up your resume and really stand out and get these interviews. So now that we have the interview, how do we prepare for it? We don't know the questions that we're going to get, but one thing that we do have, and hopefully you've done this, is that you saved that job description, or you can easily access what information was contained in that job description. So one thing that we can do, and we're just going to use this as an example, we're going to go out on Indeed.com, we're going to look up a couple different job descriptions, and then we're going to break that down into ChatGPT so that we can see how we can be prepared. So over on Indeed.com, we're just actually going to take this first example right here of systems administrator job here. So what we're going to do is go through this full job description right here. There's not a ton of information. It has our requirements. It has some responsibilities here and benefits, of course. So what we're going to do is just take this full job description right here, and we're going to copy it. Now, again, keep in mind, we're just using job descriptions from Indeed as examples. You should have the job description for the job that you have this interview for available, so go ahead and copy that job description. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and head over to ChatGPT. And once we have ChatGPT loaded, we are just going to start prompting ChatGPT. Now, one thing that I like to do is start preparing ChatGPT for what we're going to be utilizing it for. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out for us. I will want to share a job description with you, and I would like for you to take that information from the job description and determine what type of questions that I might receive during a job interview. Is that okay? Now, what I typed in there for Chat GPT probably wasn't the best, but you can prompt Chat GPT in any which way that you'd like. There are tons of great guides out there, but you can just follow along with this and it'll get you exactly where we need to go. So GPT says, absolutely, I can help with that. Please share the job description with me. So we're just gonna go ahead and paste that in there. Now, ChatGPT is going to take the time and go through this job description that we shared with them, and it's going to determine maybe what types of interview questions that you may get. Now, you're probably wondering at this point, is it even going to be accurate? Is it going to be right? And I can tell you, I've gone through and done this probably at least 100 times with different job descriptions over the last 3 months preparing for this video right here. And I can tell you 99% of the time, it's pretty accurate in the responses that it's giving. But one thing that I have to emphasize here is I'm not going to say it's 99% accurate in saying that these are the exact questions that you're going to get in a job interview. I'm simply saying the information that is shared back with us is pretty accurate and on point. So we just gave it a basic question from the start. And based on what the information that GPT pulled for us, here are some technical skills and experience questions that we could get. Can you describe your experience with managing Microsoft desktop and server environments? And if we go up to the job description here, just to refer back real quick to show you, right here, the first thing or second thing it shows is 3+ years of experience managing Microsoft desktop and or server environments. So that's pretty spot on, right? And then next one is, how have you applied your knowledge of cloud-based compute and storage solutions in a previous role? Great question. What experience do you have with Azure, Microsoft 365, and Active Directory domain services? Could you give an example of a project where you utilized SQL or PowerShell scripting to automate tasks? And tell us about a time when you had to administer Linux server systems. Which distributions are you most familiar with? Those are amazing questions that it just came up with based on the information that we provided to ChatGPT. Now we can just breeze through the rest of these questions really quick because I want to break down the technical questions even further. So some other questions that you could get are in regards to certifications in education, problem solving and innovation, process and project management, operational support, policy adherence and security, company fit and culture, compensation and benefits. I wouldn't really worry about the compensation and benefits one, so we're not even going to talk about that one. But if you go through these questions, and you can read them on the screen here, or if you're following along with ChatGPT yourself, take a look at these questions because they are very on point with the types of questions that you generally receive during an IT job interview. But let's break down the technical questions a little bit further. So in ChatGPT, I'm just going to write out, could you please share with me 20 example technical questions that I could receive for this job interview? So I hope you can start to see how utilizing ChatGPT can really change the entire dynamic of your job interview. It can really help you come prepared. It really gives you a good feeling and understanding and knowing, hey, these are the types of technical questions I could receive, and here's what I should be preparing for, right? Now, again, you may not get these types of questions, but you may get questions that are very close to or related to some of these. So what can it hurt you preparing a little bit further and utilizing this tool to really practice and be ready to nail that job interview? Back over at ChatGPT, it spit out our 20 questions for us. We'll go over a couple of these really quick, but you can read them on the screen, obviously yourself. But here from the first one, can you explain the difference between Azure AD and AADDS? I don't know what they're referring to there. So what if I didn't know that question? What if I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know the difference between Azure AD and AADDS. So could I use ChatGPT to help me with that? Sure can. So what is the difference between Azure AD and AADDS? Does ChatGPT know? I'm sure it does. So Azure Active Directory AD and Azure Active Directory Domain Services. Of course, right? I didn't know that acronym. ChatGPT, help me out. It was not an acronym that I was familiar with, and it might not be an acronym that you're familiar with either. So we can utilize ChatGPT to help us out with all of these questions that we get, all of the ones that we're not familiar with. ChatGPT can help further break down all of these questions for us and help us be prepared. Next question, how do you manage and troubleshoot DHCP and DNS issues in a Windows Server environment? Well, I'm sure if you were someone who is applying for this job, you may know how to do that and you may know how to explain that, but maybe you want a better way to explain this. So we can look at what Chat GPT's response is. So here we go, from start to finish, it's telling us how we can manage and troubleshoot DHCP and DNS in a Windows Server environment. This is all pretty accurate information. If you go through it, it's all going to be very helpful. Again, if you were applying for this position, you probably already know this. You already know how to manage and troubleshoot DHCP and DNS. So you can go through this and look and see, hey, is there anything that I'm missing from what I normally troubleshoot and do? Is there anything that I would add from this list? This can actually help you prepare better answers. And that's something, again, we're going to talk about a little later on in this video, but I want to give you a few more examples first. So we went through and did this for a system administrator position, but what about other positions? So let's take this a step further. Let's get a little bit more technical, more advanced. We're going to look up a penetration testing job. So here we go. Let's go ahead and select, let's go with this one from Motorola Solutions. So here we go. We have our whole job description. Now, again, keep in mind, we're using this as an example. Now, again, keep in mind, we're just using these Indeed job descriptions as examples. For you, in your real life situation, you may already have this job interview for a penetration tester role lined up. So you just go to that job description and what we did the last time, just go ahead and copy it. So go ahead and highlight all of that information there and copy it. Now, when we're going back to Chat GPT, one thing that you absolutely must do is open up a new chat. I would not recommend putting more information into the chat that we just utilized with the job description for the system administrator position. We don't want Chat GPT to jumble up all that information, get confused. That does happen. So the best thing that we could do is just go ahead and start a new chat. And again, we want to make sure that we prompt Chat GPT and know what to expect here. So I'm going to share a job description with you. I would like for you to analyze this information and tell me what types of interview questions I might receive for that position. Is that okay? Again, you can prompt ChatGPT in many different ways. We just want to make sure, hey, this is what we're going to be utilizing this specific instance for. So now it says, okay, go ahead and share that job description with us. So we go ahead and paste that in there. And now, again, ChatGPT, it's going to go through, it's going to do its thing, and it's going to analyze that job description and try to determine what types of questions we may receive. And already, right off the bat, it says technical expertise here. How do you stay current with cybersecurity threats and trends? That's definitely a question that you'll get in an interview for any type of cybersecurity role, because they want to know and understand how you stay up to date and what news and resources and tools do you use to make sure that you are staying up to date and current with the new things that are happening and just keeping your knowledge, again, up to date. Can you describe your experience with network penetration testing and the tools you use? Definitely would be a question that you could get for this position right here. What are the key considerations when performing web application penetration testing? Describe a time when you successfully identified and exploited a security vulnerability. Discuss your approach to reverse engineering malware. What tools do you prefer? These are all really great questions from the technical front already. Skipping past the technical questions for now, though, going through, we could see based on the other information that job description contained, it will come up with questions that you could receive about everything else: communication skills, collaboration and teamwork, understanding of cybersecurity principles, qualifications and experience, work ethics and professional development, scenario-based questions, right? If you encountered an unexpected security control during a test, how would you proceed? These are all really great questions. And again, just off this last question right here, the scenario-based one, so it says, if you encountered an unexpected security control during a test, how would you proceed? All right, well, what would ChatGPT do? Let's see how accurate it is. I encountered an unexpected security control during a test. How should I proceed? I can't type, but ChatGPT, it'll know. we're all good. So ChatGPT spit out our answer for us. And from the start, assessment and documentation, research, adaptation, ethical considerations, communication, seek assistance if needed, proceed cautiously, reflect for future tests. So these are all really great responses, but what if we wanted that more technical? Could you provide a more technical response? Let's see what ChatGPT can come up with for that. So from a more technical perspective, let's look at these answers. The first one, identification. Use tools like Nmat, scripts, Nessus, or custom enumeration scripts to identify the type of security control encountered. Determine if it's a firewall intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention system, web application firewall, or another type of security mechanism. And moving forward, fingerprinting, evasion and bypass techniques, tool customization, tunneling and encryption, rate limiting, protocol level evasion, stealth, feedback loop, compliance with rules of engagement, incident response consideration, and reporting. Now, again, if you are going in for an interview for this position already, you should know some of this information already, but this is a great way to just reassure, hey, am I on point? Is the answer that I will provide for a question similar to this going to be everything that it needs to be? Is it going to contain all of that information to impress the people that you are doing this interview with? And is it going to be right and accurate? ChatGPT is a great tool to help put all of this information together for you so that you can come prepared. So something that we did with that sysadmin position earlier was we asked ChatGPT to provide 20 example technical questions for us. We could do the same exact thing with this pen test position. Please provide 20 example technical questions that I might receive. Can't type during this job interview. Now, there's nobody here actually watching me, but I feel like I'm being watched. And I can never type when I feel like somebody is watching me. Anyway, describe the methodology you follow for a network penetration test from start to finish. It's a really good question, actually. And how would you conduct a penetration test on a system that uses both Windows and Unix-based operating systems? Can you explain the difference between a red team engagement and a standard penetration test? What are some common indicators that suggest you're dealing with a web application firewall during testing? Or how do you go about bypassing an IPS without triggering alarms? Man, there's so many good questions in all of this. And again, what if we didn't know an answer to one of these questions? Well, we could simply take that question, put it back into ChatGPT, and see what it comes up with. So I'm curious, what are some common indicators that suggest I'm dealing with a WAF during a pen test? All right, so when conducting a penetration test, encountering a web application firewall can change your approach significantly. Here are some common indicators that you might be dealing with a WAF, or a web application firewall. So first one, HTTP response codes, custom error pages, pattern recognition, session handling, consistency and blockage, rate limiting responses, captures or JavaScript challenges, headers inspections, unexpected perimeter behavior, timeouts or connection drops, content scrubbing, cookies, TTL values, passive fingerprinting. Again, if you are going into this job interview, you would already have a good idea of some of this information, or you should have a good idea or understanding of some of these responses that ChatGPT provided. So you'll know whether some of this is accurate or it's not accurate based on your own personal experience and knowledge. But again, if you didn't really necessarily know or understand some of this, you could even have ChatGPT break this down further. So we could take number 3 here and say, how does a web application firewall understand pattern recognition? Again, cannot type today, but ChatGPT, it knows what I'm saying. And as you can see, ChatGPT already coming back with a response to help us break down pattern recognition with web application firewalls even further. And you can do this over and over again with any job description. And you can keep going with these different prompts and breaking down each of these different questions even further. But what happens when you're in a job interview and you get asked a question and you don't know the answer? This is the biggest pro tip that you could take away from this video, because ChatGPT, the internet, Google, YouTube, calling in a friend's family, all that type of stuff will not save you in that moment during that job interview when you get asked that question that you are just completely clueless about. Now, I've seen so many different responses from people who don't know the answer to a question. And I can tell you the number one thing that you absolutely do not want to do under any circumstances is lie or pretend that you know the answer. And I assure you, I promise you, the best answer that you can give when you don't know something is simply, I don't know. Be honest. That is the biggest pro tip that I can give to you. But you have to take it a step further. When you get asked that question and you don't know, say, I don't know, but this is what I would do to figure it out. These are the resources that I would use to figure that out. Or I would take out my notebook and I would write that question down and I would say, please hold, I would like to write this question down so that I can look it up further. There are so many different responses that you can give to a question that you don't know, besides lying and just saying, no, I don't know, and moving further. It's no, I don't know the answer to that question, but I know how to figure it out. And that is the biggest pro tip that you could take away from this video. That pro tip right there will help you be successful in every single job interview that you do. Sometimes it's not always about having all of the answers. It's about knowing where and how to figure out the solutions to all of those questions that are arising. And if you can verbalize that, that is going to be clutch for you in the job interview. All right, so at this point in the video, we have successfully shown you how you can utilize Chat GPT to prepare for every job interview that you come across. And we gave you a pro tip that will surely help you become successful all the time. So now for the next part of this video, we're going to talk about the STAR interview process, or the STAR interview method. And this is something that will always help you out during an interview as well. But this is something that you have to prepare for. And that's what this video is all about. Preparing for the job interview. So let's dive into the STAR interview method. Now, this whole time we've had STAR broken down on the screen, but it's situation, task, action, and result. So let's break this down and help you understand this further. Imagine you're diving into a network issue. There's chaos. Users can't connect and the pressure is on. That's your situation. The backdrop of your epic IT adventure. It's not just any day. It's the day you face down a network dragon threatening to burn down your digital kingdom. This is your situation. It's your story. Now your task is like your mission objective in this high stakes game. Maybe it's to reconfigure the VLANs or to deploy a new wireless system that would make even Cisco jealous. It's the goal you've got to crush, and it's all on you. The task is something that you need to do. Then there's the action. This is where you go full on keyboard warrior. Maybe not the best way to put that, because that's not a good term nowadays, but you're in the command line, punching in configs like a boss, rerouting traffic, setting up firewalls. You're the hero in the trenches doing what needs to be done. You are there doing that action. You're doing the thing. You're making something work. And then boom, you've got your results. This isn't just some fluffy ending. You've got numbers, stats, uptime percentages that have soared, and a bandwidth bottleneck that's now as wide as the Mississippi. You've turned chaos into order. You provided a solution. You got the results. That's the STAR method, a storytelling framework where you're the protagonist and you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a whole lot of action in between. It's about taking your real world IT heroics and framing them in a way that'll make interviewers want to hire you on the spot. It's telling an amazing story. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. The STAR method isn't just about sounding cool, it's about showing that you can tackle real-world challenges with skill and finesse. So when you're in that interview, channel your inner IT pro. Keep it real, keep it energetic, and knock it out of the park with the STAR method. You're probably also wondering, when would you even utilize the STAR method during an interview? And the answer is really almost always, because you almost always get asked behavioral type questions during a job interview. You know, tell me about a time, describe a situation, describe a task, provide an example of, how would you perform? Those are all questions that are directly going to relate to an answer that will utilize the STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. Let's go over that right now. And if you thought we were done with Chat GPT, you're wrong. We're gonna go back to Chat GPT to talk about how we can utilize the STAR method in answering some of these different interview questions that we could get. So going back over to Chat GPT, out of the 20 example questions provided, which ones would benefit from the STAR method when answering? So it's going to give us some examples of STAR questions that could be asked during this interview for this pen test role. Again, we're going back to that penetration tester example job description. So it says, describe a situation where you successfully identified and exploited a security vulnerability. Describe a situation where you had to exploit a 0-day vulnerability. How did you proceed? Discuss how you would carry out a wireless penetration test. What tools would you use? So again, there's 12 examples of questions here that you could get that would utilize the STAR method. So how do we do that? Well, we can use ChatGPT to help guide us. So using the STAR method, how would you answer the question? And we're just going to take this one here, the first one. So, all right, so here's an example that one might use the STAR method to answer this question. The situation. In my previous role as a security analyst at Tech Solutions, Inc., our team was responsible for conducting regular penetration tests to ensure our security of our web applications. During one of these routine tests, I identified a potential vulnerability in one of our clients' customers' data management systems. And then the task. The system in question was critical as it stored sensitive personal data, and my task was to verify if the vulnerability was genuine and if it could be exploited, then assess the potential impact to advise the client on the necessary mitigations. And then the action. I started by using a combination of manual testing and automating tools like Burp Suite to probe the system. After confirming the presence of a SQL injection vulnerability, I crafted a specialized SQL payload to demonstrate the exploit. I was careful to stay within the authorized scope of the test and documented every step to ensure transparency and reproducibility. Once I confirmed the exploit, I worked on a patch with our development team to mitigate the vulnerability. And then our result. The exploitation of the vulnerability allowed me to access the database without proper authorization. The client was immediately informed, and with the help of the patch we provided, they were able to secure the system within 24 hours. This effort not only protected the personal data of millions of users, but also reinforced the client's trust in our services. As a result of this experience, I also conducted a workshop with our developers to help them understand how to prevent such vulnerabilities in projects. And this right here is a great example of how to utilize ChatGPT. Now, personally, this could be a little bit long. I'm not sure how long it took me to read through all of that, but imagine describing that back to somebody. So what if we could make this a little bit more concise? Because that would probably be better during a job interview. Could you please make this a little more concise? Now, I'm glad that I did this and I showed this to you guys, because this is actually a pretty bad example of information that ChatGPT gave to us. It's a little bit too concise. It's not containing enough information for us. So as you can see, it's not always going to be the best, but we can keep prompting back and forth to get better information. So we could say, provide a little more information. And cannot type today. It's driving me nuts. Anyway, let's see what it comes up with now. So that looks pretty similar to the first response. You can see that there's maybe a few areas that were reduced in sentence size there. But again, if you wanted to utilize this further, you would just have to keep prompting back and forth. But you could literally ask ChatGPT any of these questions, and it's going to come up with great STAR results for you. So if you are worried about your upcoming job interview and all the types of questions that you could receive, I hope this video has helped provide a guide for you to help you be a little less anxious. I hope that you found all the information in this video useful. It's something that you have to sit down with, you have to play with a little bit to kind of work back and forth with sometimes. But ultimately, the information that you are gathering and putting together here is going to help you prepare for your next job interview. And that is something that I am really excited for. So good luck to you in your next job interview, and I hope you crush it with this information that you learned today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, take it easy.